Lunch and Learns are an opportunity to learn over the lunch hour, sharing truths, insights, and information so we can break stigma, raise awareness, and offer new strategies for coping with some of life's great challenges. Our mission for Square One Community is to support and advocate for those who are facing homelessness and barriers due to substance abuse, mental health, incarceration, acquired brain injury, and other social barriers. We are wanting for people to have a sense of community and belonging. We believe in a harm reduction approach, low barrier model that supports individuals wherever they are on their journey. It is our hope that through these Lunch and Learns, we will become more equipped to do just that. Today's topic is supporting family members of individuals affected by crystal meth. And today we're honored to welcome Tracy Jasper and Mary Lee Booth as presenters. In light of the rising COVID cases, Terry Mawson, a member of Mental Health and Addictions team and one of our original presenters, has been reassigned to the frontline patient mental health care. And we're so grateful that she and Mary Lee had worked together on preparing today's presentation. And we are so grateful to Mary Lee for stepping in for Terry to present. And we send our love and our light to Terry and to all of the frontline workers as they work on our behalf during this fourth wave. So we're going to begin our presentation with Tracy Jasper. And Tracy is our first presenter, and we're so grateful to her for so courageously being here today to share her story and her experience. Tracy is a mom to two beautiful daughters, a daughter in recovery from crystal meth, and a daughter fighting a fentanyl addiction. So welcome, Tracy, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks, Stella. Yeah, I'm a mom of an addict. I don't know, like, how do you tell 15 years of this in 20 minutes? But I'm going to start, so if I leave things out. But I want to just let everybody know that Megan came from a very middle-class family. My husband and I both worked. We were a normal family, you know. We celebrated Christmas with family, all the occasions, you know, we had birthdays, we installed values in her, you work for what you get. When this started, I would say it was in grade 9 after she went to high school, and noticed the change after Christmas in her. And yeah, and being from a family with no addiction, no alcohol addiction, no drug addiction, you're very, just didn't know, right? Me and my husband have been together for 34 years. There's no broken family, no abuse, no addiction. So we were just a normal family, right? And it started in high school. And was it a way to fit in, to be the cool person? I'm not sure. I guess it was. When we started noticing these things, I never thought it was drugs. I just thought it was, you know, that teenage fitting in high school thing. And because I had no history of it. So it was getting so bad where she was fighting very mean to me. And, you know, I worked for an agency where I had some support and, you know, talked to social workers, and they say, oh, you know, they lash out on the ones they love the most. And yeah, she was very mean. But anyway, getting into this, we even took her to mental health. We kind of convinced Roger to go to mental health, and she went. And when I checked with mental health saying, like, what's going on here? What's the problem? She's just being this rebellious, wouldn't listen, no matter what rules you put down. And they said, we can't tell you. She's 14 or 15 years old. That's confidential. And it's like, oh my God, this is a losing battle, you know? So I went to the agency where I worked with social workers. And by this time I had it. I mean, she has broken our basement window to escape because she was grounded. Didn't know until we went down. She's gone in the broken window. It was fighting all the time. So I went and I said, you have to do something. You have to take her out of my home. I can't live like this anymore. And they said, she kind of laughed at me and she said, we can't help you. You're a good parent. We don't abuse her. We don't drink. We don't do nothing. Like, we're good parents, you know? And I said, do you need me to tell you I'll kill her? Because I will. Is that how I'm going to get help? And she laughed and said, well, you wouldn't do it. So, I mean, you just try and try and try and keep struggling. And thank God, you know, my husband and I supported each other. He was more the mediator and I was the mom, right? And yeah, we just kept doing the family things, going out doing the family things, keeping that installed, trying to keep her involved in sports, soccer, those kind of things. And till it got so bad, she was charged with possession of drugs and, you know, she was a young offender, then she wasn't a young offender. And, you know, every time she was charged, it was like, oh, I'm going to change. I'm going to do better. I promise, you know, manipulating. So you pay for a lawyer. And I remember the last time when I paid for a lawyer, my whole paycheck plus more went to a lawyer. And I was just, you know, and that was just a down payment. That wasn't the full bill. And she went and whatever, promised to live at my sister's and, you know, and do good. I promised Mom this time it's going to be different. You know, I'm done. I'm going to get a job, right? So she lived with my sister, and my sister's on here, Roxy. And she took off from Roxy's. And even though they did everything they could to support her, she took off. And I remember Roxy phoning me and saying how devastated she was, and because Roxy and her were very close. And I said, Roxy, you just got to flip the page and move on. She's an adult now. We can't do nothing. She doesn't want to help herself. We put up so much money for her for lawyers, and she just won't change. You know, you gotta, if you want to help yourself, you gotta change, right? Nobody can help you. So I kind of flipped the page and went on, and yeah, that's when Megan tells her story now. But yeah, she, as a parent, you just pray every day that they're safe. And I remember getting a phone call. I was in Regina, and I had just got to Costco, and it was Megan, and I hadn't heard from her, you know. And I should back up a little bit, because the odd time she would ask for $30, $40, you know. And it's like, oh my God, where is she? Because I haven't heard from her for 3-4 days, a week sometimes. And then all of a sudden, and it's like, does she have a gun to her head? Does she owe a drug debt? Does she need this money? Because she seems so desperate for it, right? So you sent it, which is called enabling right now. I didn't know that, you know. And but I remember getting that call at Costco, and it was Megan. And she said, hi, Mom. She said, where are you? And I said, I'm in Regina at Costco. And she said, can I come home? I said, of course you can. Like, I haven't heard from her for months, right? Off and on. And I thought, oh, she wants, you know, I never, ever closed my door on her. So I said, yeah, meet me at Costco. I'll be done, whatever, in 20 minutes, half hour, whatever. She came, and I remember looking at her and her getting into my car, and she was the skinniest rail. She has beautiful hair, and she was this blonde, dried out hair, and this skinny person, just like a rail. And it's like, oh my God, you know. And I said, Megan, you know, what's going on? Like, why? I just want to come home. And I said, okay. And I tried talking to her. I said, you need to clean up your life. You need to turn yourself in. Whatever it is, Megan, you need to deal with it. And yeah. And she was dozing off. And I just want to sleep, you know. She wouldn't even talk hard to me. And I thought, okay, just let her sleep. It may be a 2-hour quiet ride this way. And every bump we hit, she jumped and was looking around. And it's like, oh my God. But that's the life she lived in that drug world, right? They're on guard all the time. Anyway, we got home. It was just before July 1st weekend, and I talk to her. Yeah, I am going to turn my life around. I'm going to turn myself in. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Okay. So days went by. I said, did you go talk to the police? Did you do this? Did you do that? No, I will tomorrow. I will. You know, it was always that. And then she was hanging out in the basement too much for my liking. And she was very close with our grandson who lived with us. And she had hardly paid any attention. I thought, oh, this isn't going to change. So July 1st, I said, did you do anything? Did you turn? And then she kind of got really, no, just leave me alone. And I said, you know what? You get out of my house right now. I've given you how many days to change your life, to go turn yourself in. I'd be here for you. And you didn't. I said, you leave my house now. I can't have you, your friends, or that attitude around here anymore. So she left. And I prayed every night since July 1st that she would be safe. Yeah. And it was gut wrenching. I wouldn't wish it on anybody because I was the one that kicked her out. And the thoughts of what if something happens? What if she gets killed? What if she, you know, I live with that as a parent. But sometimes you have to pay tough love and you got to look out for other people in your home, which is children, right? And I love this kid. Sorry, you never stop loving. Just know that. And anyway, so on September 7th, when I got the phone call from the Saskatoon police, and I'm going to back up here, and my sister, she was always checking Facebook and checking, oh, she's alive. She's, no, she went missing. We know kind of where it'll start. I'll look. And I did too. Okay, yeah, she's on Facebook. Okay, good. She's green, you know. But then on September 7th, I was at work and I got this funny number showing up, and I, you know, went outside, took the call, and it was a lady cop from Saskatoon police. And she said, is this Tracy? Jasper? Yeah. She said, we've arrested your daughter. And I said, oh, thank God. And she said, it was quiet. And she said, pardon me. I said, I've been praying since July 1st that she was safe. Sorry, it still jokes. Yeah, because that was my turning point. And she says, oh. And then after that, her whole attitude changed. She was so nice to me. You know, I'm sure I wasn't the first parent that she had to deal with this with, right? So anyway, Megan was in jail and whatever, and court and stuff, and both drug court. And she eventually got drug court, which was a miracle and which saved her life. She got drug court. She had to live at Kate's place. She went to Pine Lodge for a month. Kate's place and Pine Lodge saved Megan. They really did. Such good programming and resources out there. And I wish we had more for the other people on the streets and stuff. I really do. And yeah, when she got to Kate's place, and I know she was mad at me through jail and I wouldn't answer her phone calls, but I quit enabling. I quit sending money. When the one thing we didn't hire a lawyer. You're on your own now. I'm done with you. You know, you need to face your consequences. And that was the biggest thing, you know, quit the enabling. And when she went to drug court, she was always talking to my sister, and my sister was always there for her and supported her. Did I gain the trust back to Megan? Probably not for a good year and a half. My sister gained it back sooner, but then Roxy was there and supported her all the time, right? She was there for her if she needed hairspray or whatever, right? Gave her flower decorations for Kate's place. But you know what? All they need, because by this time, Megan had lost everything, family, everything she's had. She ended up in Kate's place with the jail clothes on her back. That's all she had. And Roxy, I don't know if you want to jump in and talk a little bit about that. I don't know where we are. We only got about 4 minutes. But anyway, Roxy was the biggest support. And I don't know if she wasn't there in Regina to support her, I don't know what would be of today. But I know family and support when they're in recovery is a big thing. Even though you've shut the door on it, you have to open that once they're in recovery. So you shut the door when they're on the street and you open it when they're in recovery. I know it sounds weird, but yeah, so now I support her, and I am so proud. She just celebrated 4 years clean in September 10th. We went for a 4-year birthday. I guess exactly. I never miss her birthdays. I never miss anything. All her speaking engagements, I try to. That's the support, because she is doing wonderful. And I'm going to tell all parents, if Megan can do it, anybody can do it, because she was so bad into the drug scene. She was the high up. She had territory. She was so bad into it. So yeah, the main message is don't enable. I wish I would have never paid for the lawyer, you know, when she got my sister's place to go live. You know, I wish I would have never paid for that lawyer. But I did, and you can't go back, right? But don't enable, and support them in recovery, hug them. I went to her 4th birthday, and there was a girl there, and she didn't think much of Megan. I'm not going to say the word what she thought of her, but she said, when Megan came up and gave me that hug that first time, and it meant so much, because these kids have lost, these adults have lost everything, their family, everything, and that hug means that somebody still cares, right? So yeah, I hope. I would never wish this on anybody. Did I ever think in a million years I'd have to go through what I did for 15 years? Never, never, you know, but I did, and I still get choked up over it, but I am so proud of Megan. She is doing wonderful. She went back through when she was at Kate's place. She went back and took, went to SIAS, got her business certificate. She's working for John Howard, and now she's giving back to society and helping, because who better knows what those people on the streets and in addiction needs than Megan, because she's walked the shoes. You and I don't, you know, until you walk the shoes of an addict, you don't know. I still don't know a lot of stuff. But I think my 20 minutes is almost up. I'm very proud of Megan. We call each other every day. We're like best friends. It is so different. 15 years ago, she hated me. She was mean to me. You know, she was meaner to me than a stranger would be. You know what I mean? But now it's that the relationship, the connection is so strong. And she's got everything back that she lost. Her family. She did have to start over. And one thing, when we were moving her this couple weekends, I said to Megan, you need to get rid of this. You're a horror. Why do you have all this stuff? Da, da, da. She said, Mom, when you're homeless and you lose everything, it's hard to give it up. You know, for us, we don't know that. But like I say, for the ones who walk those shoes. Roxy, do you have anything to add to this? Because you were a big support in Regina when she came into drug court.
Thanks, Tracy. I don't really have anything to add, except that all I'd ever say to a family member is never give up. Keep believing in them. It's hard to talk about to this day, but I loved her so dearly, and I just couldn't give up on her, even in the worst times, because you have to keep believing in them. And sure, she did some bad things, but you know what? I was probably codependent. I was probably her biggest enabler for the most of the time. Would I do it all over again? You bet I would, because it saves them. And I just could not step back. And for a while I had to, for my own peace of mind. But I would never give up on her, and I went in the future. And I am so proud of her, because with the support, I think from all of us as a family, is what helps her be where she is today and doing such great things. Yeah, all I can say to families is keep believing in them. You have to, I think, sometimes put the brakes on. Am I embarrassed to say I was codependent? No, I'm not. That's what I have to do at the time. And like I said, I do it all over again. But always have hope in your loved one.
Thanks,
you,
Roxy.
Tracy.
Yeah, like Roxy said it, you love them no matter what. You have to just play the tough love sometimes. It's really tough to do, but always be there for them, because just remember that addict is not that when Megan was into crystal meth and the drugs and addiction, that was not the Megan we knew, because those drugs take over you. But it was the Megan that I had. That was my daughter. And you just keep believing, and you keep loving, and you keep supporting them. But like Roxy said, like anybody says, enabling, and don't enable. But I mean, back then, 15 years ago, there wasn't the resources like there is today for us as parents. Today, there's better. They could do way better. We're lacking a lot of, there's a lot of gaps in our system. What happens to the person right now on the street that wants to change their life? What happens to them? Like, where do they call? Detox every day? There's a 3-week waiting list. We need more programming. We need more programs like detox, the Kate's Place program, the Pine Lodges, stuff like that. That's where I'd like to see, and that's why I'm going to speak out and do these things, is because I want to see more of that. I want to see more detox centers, more sobriety houses, because we are lacking those gaps. And our problem with addiction and overdoses is getting bad. But there is people out there who want help. But my message is just support them. Just support them and love them, because that real person is your child. Addiction does get a hold of you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Tracy, and thank you, Roxy, for supporting in that sharing. And we're going to have opportunity for question and answer here after Mary Lee shares. But thank you so much for the courage to share your story and for being you. I really appreciate it a lot. Mary Lee, we're going to have yourself next. Mary Lee is the Prevention Awareness Campaign Coordinator for Moose Jaw Crystal Meth Strategy Committee. Mary Lee worked for Five Hills Health Region in the mental health and addictions for 23 years and has been retired for the past year. This is what she calls retirement, I guess. She is a proud mom of 3 and a grandma to 6 children. And so welcome, Mary Lee, and thank you so much. And Mary Lee, I'm just going to make you the host so that you can share your PowerPoint.
Thank you, Della, and thank you, Tracy, again, for sharing your courageous story. I'm just so honored to know you and to have contacts ongoing with Megan. And, you know, I can't imagine the pride that you have in her. I just called her this morning, I had a chat with her, and I said, you are my hero. And I truly mean that sincerely. So I'm going to share my screen here, and I'm going to get started in talking a little bit about supporting family members. So I'm just going to let you know, Della had introduced me as coming from the Crystal Meth Strategy Committee. And who are we? So Crystal Meth Strategy Committee is a network of a number of human service organizations that recognize the crisis in crystal meth use in Moose Jaw. So it includes folks like Moose Jaw Police Services, EMS, both school divisions, Saskatchewan Health Authority, and some others. And the common thing that they have is that they just really want to inform, educate, and also support services that are provided to people that are struggling with crystal meth. So why are we worried? Well, what we know is that crystal meth legal charges in the Moose Jaw area have increased by 2,000% since 2016 in the area of simple possession. So that's just possession of crystal meth for your own use, but it has increased 2,800% in possession charges for the purposes of trafficking. So we do know that crystal meth is, being manufactured and sold from people's homes, apartments, and cars in our city of Moose Jaw. It is the most addictive substance, and it can be addicting on the first try. And I think it was really important what Tracy said. She explained that, they were a middle-class family. There was no history of addictions. Crystal meth does not discriminate. So no matter what your socioeconomic status is, your age, your gender, if you try crystal meth, it can get a hold of you. And we have, a couple of people that we know that can testify to that. So we do want to acknowledge that addiction is a family disorder. There is one person who is profoundly influenced by the addiction, but it can be really difficult and challenging for their family members as well. So sometimes people, particularly in crystal meth, they don't feel that they're abusing the substance, and they might feel that they're in control of their behaviors and habits. They might not believe that they need help, and they might not be completely open about their substance misuse. So, with that, it can really influence breakdowns in communication, can cause conflict, and shifts in roles and responsibilities. And as I'd said earlier before this started, that I was really shocked one day to hear from a middle-aged woman whose elderly mother is using crystal meth. And there's a shift in roles and responsibility, because in that case, the daughter becomes the parent. And so, it can be a particularly challenging time for everybody. One of the things that we do encourage people is that we really want to try to understand the addiction, understand the substance, and try to remain calm and in control as much as possible, particularly when discussing your concerns, because if there's, kind of threatening or lecturing and preaching, it can really do the opposite. And there's a good chance that the person might shut down or get angry and just really disengage. So we also encourage that, only approach these kind of conversations with the loved ones when they are sober. And as Tracy had said earlier, meth changes a person. It's not the daughter or son or mother or brother that you might have known. That person is different because their brain chemistry is different. So substance misuse does affect families on every level. So the individual that uses crystal meth has losses, in both in health, relationships, could be job or finances, but the family members are also negatively impacted and in all these areas: emotional, psychological, financial, social. As we said earlier, the person that's addicted to crystal meth has changed so much in their behavior. And I think the hardest thing is that family members, there's a real struggle to balance both the desire to help the person with the need to let the person take responsibility for their own behaviors. And as Tracy indicated earlier, that term is called enabling. So one thing for sure is that we can't do as much as we'd like to be able to. We can't do for that person what we want them to do. Recovery really does start with the person who's addicted, recognizing that they have a problem and they want to get better. Their chances of success in recovery is much more increased when they can actually buy in to the value of a recovery path. The recovery path may not be the way that their family member sees it, but and sometimes the recovery is kick-started with a legal or a health crisis. And as Tracy had mentioned earlier, sometimes for the family member, it's really kind of about stepping aside and allowing the loved one to experience the consequences of their addiction. And that's got to be really, really tough. But if there are legal difficulties, it may be an opportunity there, because as Megan had indicated in her story, drug treatment court saved her life. And even though the loved one might be angry about being pushed into treatment, that treatment experience might help them to see how they need to change. So what can you do? Because sometimes as a family member, like you said, you know, it's really, a lot of it is out of your control, but you can still take some actions to support yourself as well as your family member. And so the biggest thing is really about learning about the processes of dependence and recovery, and that will help you become more informed and in a better position to provide support. So learning about crystal meth, learning about the drug, its effect, how it impacts the mind, behavior, and body. Crystal meth does change your brain's reward system. Like what it does is increase the levels of dopamine, 10 times more than you would in any kind of pleasurable experience. So the neurological connections in the brain are affected. So this really does change your loved one. Their brain is not able to think clearly and make decisions. And once you learn about crystal meth and how it works, it increases your empathy and compassion toward your loved one and help you understand how it is that difficult to get off. And getting off crystal meth, it creates these intense cravings and withdrawal symptoms. And I think if we don't understand about how crystal meth affects the brain, we might go to, well, you know, they just have to have willpower, and that it's not about that. It has changed their whole system, and therefore it is an illness. And we wouldn't shame somebody for having like diabetes or cancer. And the same way here is that crystal meth has really created an illness. So here's a plug for watch Stop Messing Around to learn more about the effects of crystal meth. The other thing that family members will want to learn more about is about the stages of change. And so I'm not going to go through this here because this is really a lesson in itself, but understanding where your loved one is at. For some people who are not at the point of acknowledging that they have a problem, they are pre-contemplative, and anytime we push too hard at that stage, there's a real chance that could backfire and lead to more resistance to change. So once you kind of understand where your loved one is at, it's a good opportunity to talk to maybe an addictions counselor or somebody about what are some strategies that I could use to start a gentle conversation and find out where your loved one is least resistant to change, and then have that conversation from there. So as Tracy had said, it's really, really important to know about healthy expectations, boundaries, and limits, because this will actually help your loved one move through their addiction process. Okay, so Tracy had said earlier, you know, in her situation, when she knew that her daughter was struggling to make ends meet and struggling to support herself financially, but otherwise Tracy still gave her money, that actually might be making not encouraging, but keeping her daughter in the lifestyle, because once people have to face the consequences and actually experience the consequences, they are painful, but that might be what it takes to help the person through that addiction process. So setting limits and deciding what things you will or will not do, let the affected family member know, and this sends a message to that person that they need to take control of their own behavior. I think one of the toughest things here is that shift from how can I love this person, and even though they're behaving in a way that isn't like them, but you still love them as a person, but how do you love them and how do you walk away from that person? And that's got to be the toughest thing. So that's a dilemma where family members may need some support for themselves on that. We also suggest to family members that you really do need to think about how you protect yourself physically sometimes, because sometimes crystal meth can cause people to be aggressive and have psychotic episodes. Again, it's not because they choose to do that, because the illness is making that happen. And also protecting themselves emotionally and financially as necessary. And so, you know, the word enabling, it's a good idea to kind of understand what that is. And, you know, again, it's about, it takes place when you attempt to protect your loved ones from the natural consequences of their addictive actions. So family members will experience all sorts of hurtful feelings. There'll be anger, hopelessness, shame, all those sort of things. I just want to tell you folks, it is normal. It is normal given the circumstances, a natural reaction. Any person that's in that circumstance will feel the same way. So it's just really important to talk about them with a trusted person, write about them. You are human, and don't feel guilty about feeling how you feel. It's really important to take care of yourself. So you remember, you know, anybody who's flown on an airplane, they always say, you know, if in case of something happening, put your own mask, oxygen mask on first before you try to help the person next to you, or your child, or your, you know, an elderly person. And it is because if we can't be there, if we're not healthy and well, we can't help anybody, never mind ourselves. So it's important to take care of yourself, keep up interests outside of your family, like, you know, book clubs or going to the gym or whatever. Have family and friends support too. And so also supporting yourself by thinking about getting help professionally. So a counselor for yourself, or a treatment group for families of individuals who have a substance addiction. And I'll talk more about that in a bit. Joining a peer group, like I'm not sure that MISUSE has Naranon, but that is an example of a peer group that's helpful, or a self-help program that, and I think the reason why we encourage people to really look also at peer support or professional help is because we need to help people to look beyond the stigma of addiction. And when we can view our loved ones with compassion and understanding, that helps us to be the most, you know, give the most constructive and compassionate support that we can. So even if your loved one is not in treatment or recovery themselves, you know, it's encouraged to get support for yourself. Don't give up on the holidays and birthdays and celebrating things like that. Keep up family life as normal as possible. And even if the affected loved one isn't present for those activities. So this is one of the questions that I've heard over and over from people is, there's two questions. What do I do? Where do I go? And so where can you go in MISUSE? We listened to Tracy's story, and I heard her frustration. She just kept hitting walls looking for help. So you want to offer some resources for people that might be in this situation. So CAMH has an information guide. And I can send this PowerPoint presentation to Della so she can send it to all of you, so you'll have this link. But this is, you know, a helpful guide online for families. There's also a new group called Families for Addiction Recovery, and they actually are based in Toronto, but I noticed that they have an online parent support group, and I believe that they meet online twice a month. I haven't checked it out myself, but I thought that would be, you know, accessible when you have a computer, and something to consider. So locally, you know, we want to know about what are our local resources here in the MISUSE area. So as we said earlier, you know, we can't force a loved one into detox or treatment, but when they are sober enough to process the conversation, that's a time to kind of, you know, remind them of how much you care about them. You're having this conversation, not to blame, not to criticize, but out of love and support. And so one of the things you might want to think about before having that conversation is researching your viable treatment options. And then you have that kind of in your hands. You know, I'm aware that this is a treatment, this is an option, and I can be with you. I can walk with you and attend with you if you want me to when they seek out treatment. So in Moose Jaw, we have Waccamaw Detox. And the other thing that we do is we suggest that people, when they're going through the treatment process, it is a process. So there's detoxification, then there's a treatment, and treatment can be residential, it can be outpatient. It's just really, really important to set up a good aftercare plan in the community, and that might mean peer support, like NA. It could mean, you know, I'll talk about the Matrix program a bit, but all of these things are a package policy or package process that just increases the chance for longer lasting recovery. So local supports too. Your physicians or nurse practitioners can be real good team members, and Healthline 811 or online is available. Mental health addictions at the Wigmore Hospital, as well as some private family counselors. Moose Jaw Family Services can be some resources available to family members. So here's a slide I just kind of want to pause and spend a few minutes on, because most of the time, it is at the time of crisis where people are like, we're really tapped. It's a very emotional time. Especially, if there's like a missing person or if a person is crashing on meth. So here's some things to consider. If you have a family member who's crashing on meth, meth can make a person stay up days on end. And so your body can only take that for so long. And at some point after a few days, especially because also during the time that they're intoxicated on meth, their system is going at overdrive. So their heart beats faster, they've got high temperature. So your body can't take that anymore, you crash. And so sometimes you can't get in to like a brief detox or a medical facility. So here's what family members need to know. If their loved one is crashing, they need at that time sleep recovery. And so family members, if you can't, let's say, as long as there's no medical emergency at that time, what the person needs is to hydrate. So, lots of water, tea, and feed the person. Because the other thing is sometimes when people are on crystal meth binges, they are not eating. So feed the person, hydrate them, and let them sleep it off. And sometimes letting that person sleep it off might mean a day or 2 or 3 of sleeping. And so that's also not the time to, kind of get after the person. The talking and planning to access resources can come later. And actually, when the person is coming after they're sleeping it off, they could be also in withdrawal and looking to find some more crystal meth. So that might also be the time to call, for help. So in Moose Jaw, we have the PAC team, the policing crisis team. They might be a resource for you at that time, or EMS, and particularly if the person is highly aggressive or demonstrating any kind of psychotic-like behaviors. The other things, family members, just keep this in mind, is that if you're needing to have a person at home that you're not in a brief detox or medical detox, is that call your family physician, because the family physician might be able to help with providing prescriptions to help with sleep or leveling out moods. And again, this is only a bridge until further treatment is available. Okay. So that's just a couple of things for family members to know in a crisis. And so I'm going to talk a little bit, I don't know a whole lot about this, but the Matrix is a new program they have at Mental Health and Addiction Services for people who are using stimulants, including crystal meth. And so a big part of it is a program for the person who's affected, but there are sessions of family education available to individuals. And your person doesn't have to currently be in the Matrix program for you to get that help. So whether your person is in treatment or not, now I'm understanding that you can phone Mental Health and Addictions Intake, ask for the Matrix Family Support Program. That will be a good program to, again, help you understand how meth addiction is a medical disorder, how it changes the brain, It helps you to understand about cravings and triggers, how obsessive thinking is developed and associated with the addiction, and help you understand, again, once we understand the addiction and what it does to the brain, then we can be more empathic and compassionate and support our loved ones through their recovery. So the other thing that maybe wasn't around during the time that Tracy was dealing with her daughter is we have legislation called Youth Drug Detox and Stabilization Act. I have to say this is a last resort option, and this is available for youth ages 12 to 17. So this is available when a young person is dangerously using substance and has not followed up with offered treatment. If that speaks to you and you have a child who's dangerously using, you can go through, again, phone mental health and addictions, ask to talk to the intake worker. They will walk you through this, because this can enable this young person to go into a secure detox for up to 5 days, and you can extend that possibly for an additional 10 days. And during that time, hopefully that person gets detoxed to the point that they're able to make better decisions. So I really want to kind of end with, there is hope in recovery. And as Tracy said, she instilled some hope. If Megan can do it, anybody can. It's a really difficult addiction to get through. Crystal meth has got to be the toughest drug to get through, but with both professional treatment and family support, there's increased hope for long-lasting skills to manage addiction in the future. And we do have studies that show treatment works better when at least one family member is engaged. So family involvement is really, really important. Here's another plug to watch Mething, Stop Mething Around with your loved one. We are on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook, so please look us up there. And that is presentation.
Well, friends, thank you so much. I want to especially thank Tracy and Mary Lee for your presence, for your story, for your expertise, for your courage, for being voices in our community, and for being beacons of hope and light. I appreciate you both so deeply. And to Megan, for being a bright light. We celebrate your journey through recovery and your way of speaking out as well. And so if you go, I hope you carry one thing from here. Let it be hope. Let it be the hope of navigating with new insights, information, and awareness. Let it be the hope of believing that you have within you and around you what you need to face what is ahead of you. And let it be hope that you are not alone. Let it be hope. Peace to each of you. Have a great day.